So I got it, 100,000 play button from YouTube. And I just wanted to say 100,000 and 112,000 I think now. Thank yous to everybody who supported me on this channel over the last probably almost 2 years now. I just can't believe it. It's just unbelievable, but I'm going to continue doing the thing I've been doing up to this point, and hopefully we can grow it and get to the next level. I've got some really stunning ideas, and I think they're really going to help people out because of the problems that I've had in the past. And that's basically just around inspirational tutorials. Anyway, that's enough about that. I've just come back from an amazing workshop in the Faroe Islands. We had fantastic weather, I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, so I've got back and I wanted to go through my workflow of how I deal with my photos when I get back from a shoot like that. But before I actually talk about Lightroom and my workflow into Lightroom, I just wanted to talk about my workflow when I'm actually in the field or actually on location. So it all starts with my laptop and 3 hard drives. So I have a hard drive that's got my Lightroom catalog on. So this is just an SSD hard drive. I find that works best. So this is from my Lightroom catalog. Then I have another hard drive that's got 2019 folder of all my photos. So this is my latest folder for all my photos from 2019 photo shoots. I've also got a backup of this as well, so if I lose it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I've got a backup back at home, but I bring this along with me as well. And then I've got another one, which is my on location trip backup hard drive as well. So when I back up my photos at the end of a day, I back them up to 2 hard drives, these 2 hard drives, and one of them is my effectively added to my Lightroom catalog as well. So when I get back into the studio like I am now, then all I need to do is plug in these 2 hard drives, which is my Lightroom catalog and my 2019 with all the latest, in this case Faroe Islands images, into my computer. And then if I haven't already added them into the catalog, which I usually do because I like to add them into the catalog when I'm actually on location. And another good reason to do that as well is that if you do that and you've got a good internet connection at the hotel, you can use Lightroom Classic CC and you can actually go and have a look at the photos on your iPad, and you can scroll through them, you know, whilst you're on the plane coming home and you know, do some edits, etc. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on. So I've got those photos into Lightroom, so let's go and have a look. Ooh, it's a bit chilly today and I still haven't got any heating in here. That's coming, that's coming. So I think I'll just put my hoodie back on. That's better. Right, into Lightroom. So you can see we've got the photos into Lightroom now, and I've got my folder here which is Faroes, and it's got these 2,496 photos in. Now obviously it was easy to add them into this because they're in the location they should be, so I've not had to move any files. I've just got to add them into the catalogue if I haven't already done that when I was in the Faroes. Now when I do add them, what I make sure is that I create a smart preview. So you can see here at the top it says original plus smart preview. Now, smart previews are so important. It makes such a big difference to your Lightroom workflow. So what a smart preview is it's a smaller version of the photo, but you can still use those smart previews. They exist within your Lightroom catalog on that hard drive. So if I just want to take one hard drive somewhere and edit my photos, I can just take that hard drive. It'll have all the smart previews on, and I can do really quick edits on them. It just means it's quicker to go through them as well. I've also made sure that I sync this Faroes folder, and I create, for that Faroes folder, I create a collection. So to do that, what I do is just select them all. I go down here and then I just click plus and then create collection. And I can go in there and create a Faroes collection and click create, and that will then create a Faroes collection. The reason to do that is you can then sync those collections, just individual collections, to your mobile version. So in my case, I sync them to my iPad and my iPhone. So I've got Lightroom on my iPad and my iPhone. And rather than syncing my whole catalogue, so every photo I've got, which would take a huge amount of bandwidth, and I don't have that. I live in the middle of nowhere and we have a really slow internet connection. It just means that I'm just going to sync the smart previews of this Faroes trip. So there's just going to be fewer photos than the hundreds of thousands of photos that I've got in my whole catalogue. So once you've got them in here, what you can then do is you can just go and do the first pass. And I do 2 passes. The first pass is just to go through and do any initial picks, so that I'll just flag the ones that I think are good, or any rejections. Now, I only reject photos if they're out of focus or they're completely rubbish. I've like taken the wrong thing. So I keep most of my photos, which does mean more hard drive space, but I just in case I want to go back to a photo and I take a lot of photos with the tripod in exactly the same position. So if I want to merge a photo or something like that, I just don't want to delete them. So then I just go in and I go through my photos one at a time, and then I'll go, so for instance that one there, everything looks okay, the exposure looks good, so I just go pick, and I'll go through, keep going through them until I find another one. And this is quick, so I'm going to be doing this fairly quickly. This is this initial first pass. And you can also do the same thing on your iPad. So if I just show you this, you can scroll through, and as long as you're in the star menu down there, you can scroll through, and then you can just go up to pick, down to reject, or middle to leave it the same. So I can go through really quickly and go, okay, that's a pick, that's a pick, and it just makes it really easy. You can be, just sat in front of the TV. You could be doing that on the airplane. You also want to download it onto your iPad. You don't need a connection. You can just do it offline. So it's really good. It's really good. So once I've done that first pass, I'm going to go back through the photos again and see if I've missed any pics. So I'll just do a second pass. And on that second pass, what I'm looking for is anything where I'm going to stitch things together, like the panoramics, or anything where I'm going to merge some photos, but mostly the panoramics, because I want to create those panoramic photos. So for instance here there's a panoramic, and I tend to do all my panoramics unless it looks like something's completely blown out, and I usually take quite a few panoramics, both vertically and horizontally. So for instance here's one. I'm just going to right click on it and I'll just create that panoramic photo merge panorama. Okay, so I've built this panorama, and if you're interested in how to do panoramas, I did a video of it, I'll link it here. And I'll just click merge on that, and then I'll go to that merge photo and actually pick that as well. And I usually pick all my panoramas, because there's usually, there's probably going to be 20, 25, so I'll pick them all, and then when I look at those picks and try and cut them down, I'll then decide whether I want to reject some of those panoramas. So there we go, we've got the panorama. I'm just going to pick that. Okay, when I've done that and I've got all my picks, so I can just click the flag filter here, and these are all my picked photos, flagged photos. I will then go through them and start to apply some basic edits. So I tend to do a couple of things when I'm doing basic edits. So if I just go ones that haven't been edited, so these ones here. So this is an example of a photo that currently hasn't been edited. So there are a couple of things that I do. I do some basic development. So I will just go into the develop module and I just play about with the exposure, just have a quick look at it and decide whether I think it's going to work well. So I just want to look at the shadows and I want to see what the sky looks like when I reduce the exposure. So I'm just seeing if I put some work into edit in this, just what the different levels of brightness are going to be. So I think that looks really, really good. And then I may just apply one of my presets. So I might just go and say, okay, how does this look with one of my presets that I think will look particularly well with it. In this case, Faroe's Summer works well. But what I think you should do is probably develop your own presets. So just you could have a preset that was just like increase shadows or reduce highlights or increase contrast or reduce contrast or desaturate or mono, so that you can just go in and quickly see what the photo is going to look like with different types of edits to it. So I go through and I look at quick edits to my photos, and sometimes what I might do is I might decide, here's one of Mass, who was on the workshop with us last week. So I might go, oh, I don't want that one. So I just unpick it. So I take it out of my picks. Obviously I'm not going to do that, so I'll undo that. But you know, you get the idea. We would go through and make decisions. So this is a good example of one that got into a pick, but I don't know how, and I just need to unpick it. So something I also do, which is really useful, maybe not for everybody, but I find it really useful, is just to create a contact sheet. So that's just a sheet of all my picks. Now, I tend to do this when I've edited them a little bit as well. So I can see some of the detail when I print it out, obviously. But it's a good way of just living with those photos a little bit. So it's easy to do. You just go into the print module here and select all your photos that are pics. And then you can just, on the left-hand side here, I usually do 4x5 contact sheet. You need to make sure you're set up in the print size that you want as well. In this case, I usually do an A3 contact sheet. And this is going to make 3 A3 contact sheets from those photos. And yeah, you can just go and print those. And here's one that I made earlier. So this is a contact sheet that I made. You can see it's the same as on screen there. So this is one of the 3 contact sheets, and it just means that I can just live with it. I can look at it. I can maybe scribe some notes on it. You know, and it's a way of looking at your photos when you're not just at your computer, and I find that quite useful. I quite like just detaching myself a little bit from a computer. It also helps me understand what's going to look good when it's printed as well, because I'm actually looking at it, not rather than backlit, I'm looking at it in natural light or other types of light. So I definitely recommend that you do that. Just before we go and have a look at a couple of photos that I printed from the Faroes, because I can't finish the video without showing you some of the printed photos. I just want to show you the final stage of my workflow. So what I would finally do is just go through the images, and you usually do this when I've edited them, and I go through and rank them 3, 4 or 5 stars. So the best ones, then there would be 3. So my best ones will be 3, 4 or 5 stars. 3 tends to be ones that I think are good. They could potentially be used commercially, but are probably not going to be in my portfolio. 4 and 5 are ones that are likely to be in my portfolio. 5 definitely will be in my portfolio and probably go for sale. And I might change them over time as well. So this will probably be a 4, and then this one here will probably be a 3, and then this one here might be a 4. And so I go through, and then that way I've got a smart collection that collects together all my 3, 4 and 5 star photos, and then I can see over time what they are. And then I also make sure that all those 3, 4 and 5 star photos are synced onto my iPad as well. Okay, I hope that's helped. Let's go and have a look at some photos. So I'll just pop over here and we can look at some photos on the desk here. As you know, I love printing, and I've just done some quick prints of the early indications of what I've got from the Faroe Islands. I've got to say I'm really pleased. So here's 2 prints that I just wanted to quickly talk about. So this one was this was on the first day, and we had this really amazing sea, what you can see here. I'll probably find another one with even better waves actually, but we had this dark sky and really amazing light on here. So I was really quite pleased with this. I tried to sort of get a good composition so it came round here. There's some good diagonals in it and opposing diagonals here, and yeah, I just like the texture in the water here. And then I tried to sort of create some depth to the image with the mountain in the background there. So I was really pleased with that. And I also like this one. The previous one was taken on my Nikon with my 24 to 70 lens, 24mm, if memory serves me right, I think so. But this one was taken at 140mm on my Fuji X-T3 with my long lens, and I left my long lens on my Fuji because I just thought it was good to have a long lens on one camera and a wider lens on another one. I also used my 16 to 35 on my Nikon as well. But I really like this. We had some really fantastic light. We climbed up this mountain. This little village was just fantastic, and then we had Pebbles. What are you doing? No, Pebbles. What are you doing? I'm just talking. I am talking to the camera there, look. Right, well, you stay there whilst I just finish talking about this picture, okay? Good. So, and then we had this amazing light here that was just fantastic, and I've taken quite a few different compositions, but I like this vertical one. I think it gives scale with a little village, this tiny little church here. and see you later. And yeah, I really like it. Anyway, I'll show you a few more of those next week. I'm going to be talking a little bit about my story in photography and how I became sort of the first photographer I am now, and I'll talk a little bit about nature and nurture and what I think about that, which I think is going to be quite interesting. So that's in next week's video. I've taken some really good footage for that. I'm really quite excited about it. And until next Sunday, thanks ever so much for watching, and bye.